Hello and welcome to Critical Health News' regular broadcast. My name is John T. McCollier. Today we are joined by Ben Fuchs, the pharmacist who advocates for the body's natural ability to heal. Hi Ben, it's been a while.
Hey John T, good to see you again.
Yeah, you as well. I've been really wanting to do another one of these interviews with you. I've finally kind of gotten settled in our new place here, so we're good to go.
All right, let's rock.
Yeah, you sent me some pretty interesting articles about osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis in the Mediterranean diet. I find those articles. I don't even know where I put the articles. I don't remember. I can't find the articles now. But one was about osteoporosis in the Mediterranean diet, which I found interesting. I'll tell you why here in a second. And the other one was about osteoporosis and blood sugar. Turns out that bone cells, like all cells, utilize sugar. And as diabetes kicks in and insulin resistance kicks in and cells don't utilize sugar as effectively, bone cells suffer as much as any other cells, and osteoporosis is now being linked to diabetes. Osteoporosis is linked to diabetes, and it's linked to a non-osteoporosis is linked to a good diet, which is what I consider the Mediterranean diet to be. I don't really name the Mediterranean diet. I just say a good diet. What does it mean? It means making sure you're getting a lot of protein or enough protein, making sure you're eating fruits and vegetables, eating fresh food, not eating as much food, making sure you're getting your fiber. It's basically a good diet. So what these two articles showed me, and these both came out here in the last couple of weeks, was that number one, osteoporosis is related to blood sugar problems, which is something we talk about all the time, how all health issues have a blood sugar component. So in this way, osteoporosis is just a poster child for what can go wrong in the body. It's not really a special disease. And then number two, one of the best ways to deal with it is to eat well. Is to make sure you're eating fresh vegetables and make sure you're eating fish and make sure you're staying away from sugar and make sure you're staying away from processed fats, et cetera, which is basic, and making sure you're getting enough fiber, which is basically what the Mediterranean diet is about. So when I think of osteoporosis, I don't really think of it as a disease. You know, doctors call it a silent disease, meaning it has no symptoms. Well, I don't even think of it as a disease. I just think of it as general weakness. It turns out that most people who get osteoporosis are older, usually over the age of 50. In fact, according to the latest statistics, some out of the 54 million Americans who have osteoporosis or have weakening of the bones, osteoporosis, by the way, means porous bones or weakening of the bones, some half of all women over the age of 50 are supposedly have osteoporosis. A quarter of all men have osteoporosis. It's much more of a female disease, by the way, than a male disease. So I consider it to just be a sign of a weakening of the body. And so that means that if you want to deal with osteoporosis, you just have to do the basic things that we all have to do to strengthen the body. If you have diabetes, that's a risk factor for osteoporosis. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, that's a risk factor for osteoporosis. If you had a gallbladder removed or you had a hysterectomy, those are risk factors for osteoporosis. Intestinal health issues, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, risk factors for osteoporosis. What's not going to work for osteoporosis is drugs. If you go to the doctor, they'll either give you what's called a bisphosphonate drug, which are notorious in the world of pharmacy for being among the most toxic of all medication, and that's saying something, or they'll give you estrogen, which is a hormone that has its own toxic profile. And for anybody considering so-called bioidentical hormones or bioidentical hormone replacement, there's no such thing as bioidentical hormone replacement. It's a marketing term. There's no scientific way you could be bioidentical with your hormones. And when you take hormones exogenously from the outside and put them on the inside, you're always going to be playing with fire because the hormone system is tightly regulated. So the main medical strategies, in fact, the only medical strategies for dealing with osteoporosis, the bisphosphonates and estrogen, come with a whole host of problems, including toxicity and throwing off the body's biochemistry. But you know what? It doesn't matter because we don't need the medical model to address osteoporosis, which, as I say, is simply a weakening of the body or a weakening of the bones. For one thing, get out and do a little exercise. Exercise is really helpful for building tissue, connective tissue specifically. Let me take a quick digression here. The bones are made up of connective tissue, and the connective tissue makes up about a third of the body. Yes, the bones are a specific type of connective tissue, but you've got connective tissue in your blood vessels, you've got connective tissue in your skin, you've got connective tissue inside your body that holds everything in place, holds all your organs in place. So when you're dealing with osteoporosis, which is a breakdown or a deterioration of the connective tissue, you're at higher risk for hernias and prolapses, which is a deterioration of the connective tissue in the inside of your body. You are at higher risk for heart disease because the connective tissue in your blood vessels are starting to break down. Cholesterol deposits repair deteriorating connective tissue, so you're more likely to have cholesterol plaques when your connective tissue is breaking down. And from a strictly from a vanity perspective, you're more likely to have wrinkles. And you can always tell when somebody is more prone towards osteoporosis by looking at their skin. If skin is wrinkling rapidly, there's a good chance that the bone is deteriorating rapidly as well. So that's just a quick digression. Exercise helps build all connective tissue, specifically the connective tissue in the bones. I should also tell you the bones generate an electrical charge. They're actually said to be piezoelectric, which means as there's pressure put on them, they generate electricity. So you can upregulate the electrical energy in the bones by moving. And this is why a sedentary lifestyle is associated with osteoporosis. The bones also, by the way, make red blood cells. The bones store fatty vitamins. They store fats. I shouldn't say fatty vitamins, but they store fats. They also store minerals, as everybody knows. So when your bones deteriorate, all of these other things, all of these other functions of the bone can be compromised as well. Relax, lighten up, reduce your cortisol levels. Cortisol thins the bones. Prednisone, if you're on prednisone, get off of it, or at least wean yourself off, or at least reduce your dose. If you're on prednisone, you run higher risk for wrinkles, for hernias, for prolapses, for deteriorating bones. All connective tissue building will suffer when you're on prednisone or drugs like prednisone, steroid-like drugs. Then there's nutritional supplements, of course. And we always talk about nutritional supplements. So last but not least is supplementation. DEEK, your fatty vitamins, all play a very important role in bone building. Vitamin A and D, those are your major building vitamins. Vitamin E helps protect bones from assaults, from oxidation. Tocotrienols are specifically important for osteoporosis. Tocotrienols are the deluxe form of vitamin E. Vitamin K, very underappreciated vitamin. Most people will think about vitamin K as a blood clotting vitamin, which is true. It's involved in blood clotting, but what people don't realize is vitamin K is actually a calcium vitamin. It actually holds on to calcium, it sticks to calcium, and it will help act as a calcium magnet for the bones. Under conditions of vitamin K deficiency, you won't be able to hold on to calcium as effectively. And because most of us don't like to eat our green leafy vegetables, which are the best sources of vitamin K, a lot of people are dealing with vitamin K deficiency. So your fatty vitamins, essential fatty acids, which also trigger the production of the growth of tissue, the production of tissue, those are also important. Of course, minerals, everybody knows about calcium, but zinc is important for the bones. Magnesium is important for the bones. Strontium, very underappreciated mineral that's found in seafood and root vegetables, is also very important for the bones. I love liquid silica gel, or silica. It's a precipitating mineral. Connective tissue tends to build around silica. Silica acts like a seed that stimulates the precipitation of connective tissue. Liquid silica gel is a great source of silica. Silica is found in seeds and other vegetables. As important as calcium is and minerals are, most of us, when we think of the bones, we think of minerals. The minerals are actually held in the bones in a collagen matrix. So that protein and collagen are also very important for building bone, and that's where things like collagen peptides come in. Glucosamine, the Gluco-Gel caps from Youngevity, can be very helpful. Bone broth and bone broth protein. We have a new bone protein product out I was just reading. Youngevity does. So making sure you're getting your bone broth and bone broth protein. I get that question a lot, by the way. What's the difference between bone broth and bone broth protein? Bone broth contains lots of things that are not in bone broth protein. The bone broth protein is just the protein fraction. But bone broth has got a lot of cartilage and connective tissue building substances that dissolve into the liquid portion of the broth, into the soup. So you're actually drinking liquid bone.
Right.
So that can liquid connective tissue when you do your bone broth. Bone broth protein is just the protein part, and that's also, of course, very valuable. In biochemistry, we say the rate limiting step for the building of connective tissue is vitamin C. So you can have magnesium, you can have calcium, you can have protein, you can have your zinc and your strontium and your vitamins D, E, A, and K. You can have everything. But if you don't have vitamin C, you aren't making bone. Bone is connective tissue, and vitamin C is the rate limiting step in the production of all connective tissue. That's why vitamin C is so important for your skin. That's why vitamin C is so important for your heart. A lot of people who believe that heart disease is actually a form of scurvy, which is the name of vitamin C deficiency disease. But
right.
we can all be suffering from what's called subclinical scurvy. That is a form of scurvy that's not bad enough to put you in the hospital or bad enough to kill you, but is just you're getting not enough vitamin C to build strong bones. You might not be suffering from a full-blown vitamin C deficiency, but you may just be having a slight deficiency, a mild deficiency in vitamin C, and it's not allowing you to build bones strong enough. So vitamin C is more important. I was going to say just as important. It's more important than calcium and magnesium and vitamins D, E, A, and K, and all the other things that we just talked about, because without vitamin C, no matter what else is in the system, you're not making bone. And then there's digestive enzymes, also very important. If you have a gallbladder taken out, or you have any digestive problems, if you're not absorbing fatty vitamins as well, or if you're fatty minerals, you're not going to be, it doesn't matter what you take, bone's not going to be able to get the advantage of the supplements. So making sure that you're using digestive enzymes with your meals, making sure that you're using bile salts if you have a gallbladder problem. Everybody benefits from bile salts anyway. So there's bile salts, by the way, in our ultimate enzymes. Pancreatin is a type of enzyme that helps you absorb fats. Lecithin and lecithin granules can help. Apple cider vinegar with your meals. All of these can be very helpful for helping you utilize nutrients, whether they're in foods or whether they're in supplements. And then probiotics, really underappreciated and not really we don't really take advantage of probiotics when it comes to fat absorption. So if you're dealing with fat malabsorption issues and you're not absorbing your fatty vitamins, your D or your fatty minerals, your calcium and your magnesium and your zinc, it doesn't matter what you take. Probiotics can help your body process fats just as much as bile can, just as much as digestive enzymes can, just as much as pancreatin and lecithin can. So making sure that you're on a good probiotic supplement like the Nightly Essence, making sure you're eating fermented foods. Fermented vegetables will do double duty for helping you build bones, because the fermented vegetables, sauerkraut, for example, and fermented beets and fermented cucumbers, not only will get you the probiotics and the good bacteria, but the bacteria will act on the vegetables to release the nutrients and make them more available to you. So fermented vegetables are especially good for you. And also fermented dairy, if you can handle yogurt and kefir and such, fermented dairy, because of the calcium, and also the bacteria, can also be helpful for osteoporosis. So long story short here, osteoporosis isn't really a disease as much as it's a sign that the body is weak, which means the strategies for taking care or preventing osteoporosis or reversing it, if you already have it, are really building the body, making the body stronger, eliminating the things that hurt the body, the drugs, the cortisol, the prednisone, the smoking, the cigarettes, changing your lifestyle so you're moving your body, you're exercising, you're reducing your sugar intake, eliminating smoking if you're smoking, reducing your intake of prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs for that matter, and making sure that you're on a good nutritional supplement program. That's how you deal with osteoporosis. That's how you prevent osteoporosis. And that's how, if you already have it, you reverse it. It's not a medical issue. It's a lifestyle issue.
I found it very interesting that they were, in one of the articles you sent, they were describing how bones have this sort of cyclical process where bones are building new bone, and they're also dissolving old bone.
So important, Jonty. That's so important. The medical model says, well, we're just gonna kill the cells or suppress the cells that destroy the bone.
Exactly.
And so logic would say, oh, that makes sense. We'll just stop the cells from destroying the bone. But then you just got a bunch of old bone.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't cleared out the old bone. The body likes to remodel things, out with the old, in with the new, and that always assures a supply, a constant, steady stream of fresh, strong tissue. Interestingly, people who are on Boniva and Fosamax, they don't lose as much bone, but they have more fractures. So that they have bone, but it's weak bone. And that, in a nutshell, is what's wrong with the medical model. We end up treating symptoms. We treat the signs, but because we don't treat the underlying biochemistry, we don't get healthier.
I found it very interesting that a normal human will have an entirely new skeleton roughly every 10 years.
Isn't that amazing? The whole body is constantly remodeling like that, or skin, or blood cells, or liver. The body you have right now is different than the body you had when we started this conversation. Right? It's constantly shifting. It's constantly changing. It's constantly remodeling itself. And that's such a beautiful thing about the body. That's why we want a steady stream of nutrients coming in at all times, and we want to make sure that there's no toxicity coming in as best as possible.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a ton, Ben. That was a wild ride through A ton of information. You do the most incredible job of packing it in to a short period of time.
I know. Sometimes I think I give too much information, but you can always review the information. You can go back to it and take notes if you like. But I'd rather give more information than less.
Well, thankfully, it's a format where if somebody wants to pause it and listen to a part over again, they're empowered to do so. Thanks a ton, and I hope we do this again soon.
Yes, let's do it again soon. Thanks, John T.
Thank you all for joining us. This has been a Critical Health News broadcast. Please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, visit criticalhealthnews.com for more alternative empowering articles and videos, and subscribe to our newsletter.